Who did I think were the biggest sports nutrition brand winners of 2022? So it's that glorious time of year again where my content creation morphs into a collection of top five lists that either gives me a chance to highlight key insights from the last year or provides me the opportunity to put my reputation on the line as a forward leaning CPG strategist and make predictions about the coming year. Outside of just ranking which five or so of these sports and active nutrition brands I thought were the biggest winners in 2022, I also toss in numerous insights about strategies that made each of them special. This should make this content both entertaining and impactful for everyone. How do I decide which sports and active nutrition brands were the biggest winners? Well, I have an imperfect rubrics that evolves a bit annually. It's a mix of qualitative and quantitative data, which the latter comes from my data partner, Spins. That being said, I don't have some like fancy proprietary technology doing all the work for me. So while I try to leave out all the different kind of cognitive biases, it's really impossible because of my bandwidth or the ideology in which I think about the sports and active nutrition industry. If you are someone that consumes maybe similar end of year ranking content from some of these other industry creators, you'll notice a few things that are different over here. First and maybe foremost is that product innovation or product invention is not the main component of this list. Yes, it does play a role, but I don't believe in this idea of like best formulas in a vacuum. I take a more like integrated strategy macro view on product innovation. So things like go to market strategy matters, or like price pack architecture matters, or product market fit matters, and a number of other things. That means I weigh things maybe a bit heavier on the commercialization success. I also include things like energy drinks or sports drinks and protein added functional foods into my consideration set because that's at least where I think the market continues to shift towards. Finally, I don't have any like fancy awards. I wish I had championship belts or rings or trophies or whatever else my fellow industry content creating friends give out, but it's literally just me talking to a camera. My hope, though, is that this annual list, which is in its fifth year, provides a bit of like bragging rights from the like if you know crowd because it's really coming from someone that knows the space intimately and from just about every conceivable angle. But before I get into this, like who's on my biggest sports nutrition brand winners list for 2022, I want to cover a few themes that I thought were apparent throughout the year. One is that most of the strategic plans of these brands were shot again in 2022. The massive supply chain crisis within the last year continued, but maybe subsided a bit in most of the product inputs. But that doesn't mean that the bullwhip effect didn't create inflation levels not seen within the modern era of the industry. Secondly, having like diversification and sales channel strategy that mattered a lot, especially if you had traction in large retail channels, as 85% of the categories incremental growth was captured there. This also means that brands that had hero SKUs in large categories like protein and energy that were also in these large retailers did extremely well. Thirdly, having diversification in marketing or media strategies mattered even more. The paid digital marketing lever is no longer at this like arbitrage point. So you needed to have other ways that you could cut through the noise in a cost efficient manner. Fourthly, is this idea that you shouldn't have chased on trend and off brand pandemic era trends because it burned a lot of brands and created a lot of zombie companies. And my prediction is we're probably going to see a lot of them struggle or maybe even die in 2023. And then, fifthly, finally, on these kind of themes, is that running a legitimate business, so accounting, legal, operations, all these like back of the house, unsexy departments continue to prove even more important as more eyes are tuned to the sports nutrition category. Okay, so enough with these like theme rundown. Let's start with a handful of honorable mentions that are in no particular order. The first brand that I do want to show love to is Prime. Now, regardless of what you think about Logan Paul and KSI, they have really some big ass balls for taking on an active nutrition category that has been dominated by the category creator Gatorade for more than 5 decades. Also, you shouldn't discount that this celebrity packaged goods brand is involved with Congo brands. In my mind, that team is the perfect combination for Logan Paul and KSI, which they have like great risk appetite, decision making speed, and sales and marketing aggressiveness. So, with the upcoming launch of Prime Energy, we'll see if it's just as successful as a hydration product that did see nine figures in revenue in its first year in market. The second honorable mention brand on this year's list is Raw Nutrition. Now, I'll be the first to admit that I underestimated the mainstream appeal of Chris Bumstead. The depth and the breadth of his growth over the year has definitely fueled Raw Nutrition's success. From the outside looking in, Raw Nutrition is reframing like bodybuilding culture into something that seems more interesting. It reminds me a lot of what animal nutrition did in the late 2000s with those like really cool ads from Brian Moss. Next up is GLAXON. This is the third year in a row that I had them in my honorable mention section. They definitely continue to be creative in how they approach product innovation, creating brand awareness, and wrapping it all up into a business model that's interesting. While I see them progressing each year, they just haven't gotten over that hump enough for me to name them ahead of anyone that I do have on my top five list. Another repeat honorable mention brand from last year is Bear Performance Nutrition. This sports nutrition brand continues to be a total sleeper that should get way more respect within the inner circles of the industry. The way that Nick Bear has been able to adapt and evolve his brand to stand out in the sea of sameness is definitely totally commendable. The final honorable mention brand that I do want to talk about is Alpha Lion. And I know I mentioned earlier that 2022 was a tough year for paid digital marketing or performance marketing, but sometimes the masters of their craft can break through any challenge and still create a ton of opportunities. Though the sports nutrition brand with superhuman products has really been growing steadily for years, its mix of effective content and consistent limited time offer product launches gave them this like up and away effect that would make even Superman jealous. Okay, enough with the honorable mentions though. It's time to get into the top 5 biggest sports nutrition brand winners in 2022. Like I always do, I'm going to start with number 5 and then count down so there's maybe a little bit of suspense. This year's number 5 sports nutrition brand is going to be Cellucor, aka C4 Energy. Yes, C4 Original is maybe the most memed about pre workout on the market, but it's also the categorical leader. So who gets the last laugh? But let's be honest, Cycor isn't really making my list based on the historical pre-workout sales alone. I'll kind of get to the obvious suck the air out of the room news next, but I also like need to give some love to the newly designed packaging that's been rolling out here in Q4. For me, it's really a big step forward from the previous design. But by and large, though, Cycor made this list because of, at least my mind, how perfect I believe the strategic partnership is with Keurig Dr. Pepper and how it will be able to transform the organization. C4 Energy is one of these products that doesn't get talked about enough. I think it's has a ton of great growth. It's a great product and has a proven brand name that works great in the energy drink space. So let's go over to the fourth ranked sports nutrition brand on this year's list. And I have First Form moving up one spot from last year. I've said it once and I'll say it again. First Form isn't like other brands, and that's by design. Few sports nutrition brands ever reach the level of impact that First Form has been able to achieve and still continues to achieve. They are focused on changing lives, and that can be seen in how they approach marketing or product or business model and even human capital. Everything is built a certain way for a certain reason, and they execute at the highest level. Transitioning over to the third biggest sports nutrition brand winner, I had RYSE moving all the way up from last year's honorable mention. In my opinion, really, RYSE gets a bad rap around the industry circles as a brand that copycatted the flavor licensing of Ghost. Here's what I know to be true: flavor partnerships alone didn't make Ghost successful, and it won't with RYSE either. If you think it's that easy, I can really give you the numbers of several licensing agencies or direct contacts that handle licensing strategy at large CPG brands. And I'll even go a step further and hook you up with really any contract manufacturing contact that you need within the industry. 99.99% of you will still never get to the success level of RYSE. There's really nuance to the RYSE growth story that starts and stops at the CEO's skill set and relentless approach to business. So we're down to the last two sports nutrition brands on the 2022 list. Any guesses? I'll give you one hint on the next one, and it's that I already mentioned the owner of it once in this list. I know I always seem to get some crap for whatever reason for putting them so high on my list, but how can you hate on the growth story of Alani Nu? It's wild to think that this brand went from GNC exclusive darlings in 2019 to taking a huge risk by refreshing its packaging on the energy drinks, then all products, and then also jumping right into the deep end of large retail in the midst of like the hell that was happening in 2020. That led to a massive total distribution point expansion and achieving a level of momentum commercially in 2021 that's almost unseen in the entire CPG industry, let alone sports nutrition. Well, 2022 might not have been as intense in terms of the quantity of headlines, but Alani Nu did collaborate early on in the year with mega TikToker Addison Rae. They moved deeper into college event marketing, which I think is a great idea, and expanded its partnership with the largest retailer in the world, Walmart, just to kind of name a few things. My one knock on Alani Nu continues to be that they have this lack of focus within the beverage format. They have a certified winner in the energy drinks. Focus there. Leave the coffee RTDs, water variants, alcohol, and whatever else products to Congo brands that they can find another celebrity to develop a new brand around. But we are down to the final one on my list. Who do you guys think I have as the biggest brand winner of 2022? Some of you will definitely call me boring, others predictable, but it is what it is. I've made 5 of these brand of the year lists, and Ghost has stacked up 5 wins. I'll say this like right off the bat though, 2022 was not that elite level. We will talk about it for decades type performance that Ghost had in 2022. Now, a better comparison would be 2021, and I'd say they beat that, but I don't necessarily think by a materially wide margin. Are the other brands on the list catching up to Ghost? I think I need to mention a positive spin on something that pundits and professionals talk about as a negative in the sports nutrition industry. There's been this insane brand and product proliferation that's happened over the last like 5 to 7 years in the sports nutrition space because of these low barriers of entry. It's, to me at least, elevating the competitive landscape into this only the strong survive scenario, which has begun incubating extremely impressive companies that can steal share from conventional market leaders up and down the CPG categorical scoreboard. So, yes, brands are definitely catching Ghost, but in my mind, Ghost has this it factor that scares the shit out of billion-dollar incumbent CPG brands. Few can ever really ever hope to breathe that rare air. What did I think about the 2022 year at Ghost, though? Rapid fire, just quickly here. First, they had huge total distribution point in their energy drinks. Love that. Secondly, they got involved in more and bigger event marketing opportunities. Love that as well. Thirdly, they deepened their gaming play with the FaZe Clan strategic partnership. I enjoyed watching that kind of play out. And then fourthly, they've re engaged with the original core audience of sports nutrition, which I think they've kind of faded away from. Maybe, though, more importantly, despite the massive revenue growth, especially on the energy drink side, Ghost did an excellent job at staying focused and within their strategic framework. It's easy for hypergrowth brands to lose themselves in the build and scale process, but Ghost has continually proven year after year it's doing things the right way. What did you think of my list this year? Do you have a different top 5? I'd love to hear them in the comments of this YouTube video or reaching out to me on any of my social media accounts that I always leave in the contents description. But I hope you enjoyed this YouTube video. If you did, consider hitting the like button to support me. Also, help me get to my short-term goal of 2,000 subscribers by hitting that subscribe button. I'd love to see you join me on this journey, but we need to fix the fact that just about like 3/4 of you that are watching this YouTube video right now are not subscribed to my channel, and that makes me extremely sad. But I do want to thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.